People ask me this question in a soft voice, usually after a pause. Sometimes it comes at the end of a longer conversation, when the room has gone quiet and the polite questions are used up. They lean in a little and ask if Amish women ever regret getting married young. I used to hear it as a challenge, like they were waiting for a shocking confession. Now I hear it as curiosity mixed with care, and I answer it differently than I once did. My name is Eliza. I grew up in a traditional Old Order Amish community in Pennsylvania, and I left a few years ago. When I speak about marriage, I'm not speaking as a scholar or a critic. I'm speaking as someone who watched girls my age walk into that life, and as someone who stood close enough to feel the weight of the expectations, even though I stepped away before marriage myself. From the outside, people often imagine Amish marriage as rushed or forced, like something done without thought. They picture young girls pushed into unions before they understand what they're agreeing to. That picture misses a lot. Marriage in Amish life isn't chaotic or impulsive. It's careful, planned, and surrounded by layers of meaning. Young doesn't mean careless in the way outsiders often assume. It means early, and early has a different shape when your whole life has been structured around that moment. In our community, marriage was understood as the natural next step after baptism. You worked, you attended church, you learned your place in the rhythm of the household, and then you married. The Ordnung, our unwritten set of rules, wasn't just about clothing or technology. It was about keeping life simple and predictable so faith could stay at the center. Marriage fit into that simplicity. It was meant to steady you, not confuse you. I remember being 16 and sitting at the long wooden table in my parents' kitchen, snapping green beans beside my mother. She talked about a young couple who had just announced their engagement. She said it kindly, almost proudly, noting how well the families matched and how capable the girl was. No one asked whether the girl felt ready. Readiness wasn't measured by age or dreams. It was measured by whether you could work, pray, and keep a home. By the time I was 18, weddings felt constant. Every season had its ceremonies, plain dresses, and long meals served on borrowed tables. I watched my friends step into roles that had been prepared for them since childhood. They didn't seem frightened. They seemed focused. There was joy, but it was quiet, folded neatly into responsibility. Regret, when people ask about it, sounds dramatic, like a sudden realization or a breaking point. That isn't how it usually appears. If regret exists, it often comes later and arrives gently, mixed with other feelings. I saw it in small moments. A friend once told me she missed reading alone in the evenings, something she loved as a girl. Another mentioned how strange it felt to never have lived by herself, to have gone from her parents' house straight into being someone's wife. I remember one winter afternoon visiting a cousin who had married at 19. Snow pressed against the windows, and her baby slept in a basket by the stove. We folded laundry together, and she moved carefully, tired but content. At one point she said, almost casually, that she sometimes wondered who she would have been if she had waited. Then she shrugged and said it didn't matter now. There was no bitterness in her voice, just a moment of curiosity that passed as quickly as it came. Community pressure plays a role, but it's rarely loud. No one shouts or threatens. Instead, there are comments, comparisons, and silences. Girls who don't show interest in marriage after baptism are noticed, not punished, just noticed. Sermons emphasize family and duty. Older women offer advice that sounds like concern. Waiting too long isn't framed as rebellion, just as unnecessary risk. That pressure shapes how choices are felt. When everyone you know marries young and speaks of it as God's will, it becomes hard to separate personal desire from communal expectation. You don't ask yourself if you want marriage yet. You ask yourself if you're faithful enough to accept it when the time comes. Emotionally, this creates a narrow space for self-discovery. I didn't feel trapped, but I did feel unfinished. I sensed parts of myself that had no language in our community. That feeling didn't make marriage wrong for everyone, but it made it complicated for me. I knew women who never questioned their path and found deep peace in it. I also knew women who carried quiet questions alongside their devotion. It's important to say that many Amish women do not experience regret in the way outsiders imagine. They see their early marriage as a blessing, a foundation that allowed them to grow into themselves within a clear structure. From the inside, these rules are often experienced as protection, not restriction. The predictability offers relief in a world that feels uncertain. When I left, I didn't leave because marriage was bad. I left because I needed to understand myself outside of the roles already written for me. Watching my married friends helped me see both the beauty and the cost of choosing early. Neither cancels the other out. And this is where things become more complicated, because regret isn't always about wishing something hadn't happened. Sometimes it's about wondering what else might have been possible, even while loving the life you have. When I think more deeply about this question, I realize it connects to how Amish women understand choice itself. Inside the community, choice isn't framed as endless options, it's framed as commitment. You choose once, carefully, and then you stop choosing so you can live faithfully. That mindset changes how regret is felt and expressed. I remember an older woman in our district, someone everyone respected, telling me that too many choices weaken the spirit. She said peace comes from staying, not from searching. At the time, I nodded because that was the language I had. Years later, I still hear her words, and I understand why they made sense to her. Her life had depth because it had limits. For Amish women who marry young, those limits can become a source of strength. They learn their roles deeply. They grow alongside their husbands rather than apart from them. Regret, if it appears, often isn't spoken aloud because it doesn't serve the life they're committed to. Silence isn't denial, it's discipline. From the outside, that silence can look like suppression. From the inside, it can feel like focus. I've learned that both interpretations can be true at the same time. Leaving taught me to value exploration. Staying teaches others to value devotion. Neither path is empty, and neither path is complete without sacrifice. When I sit with this question now, I don't answer it with yes or no. I answer it with stories, with pauses, with the understanding that regret isn't always a failure. Sometimes it's just a sign that a person is aware of the many lives they could have lived, even as they choose one. I share this not to persuade or to warn, but to invite reflection. If you've wondered about this question, you're not alone. And if you've lived inside or outside a life shaped by early commitment, your understanding matters too.